One thing that the fans are most worried about at the moment is ticket prices.
Yeah.
What message have you got for them? Can you give them some comfort that they're not, I mean, obviously the prices have gone up in certain areas for £66 and there's no concessions now.
Well, I mean, I think...
Are we going to see ticket prices increase again next season?
A little bit, yes, we will, but not a lot.
How much by, do we know?
No, not yet. We'll know in a couple of weeks.
It's
not going to be a big amount, but I mean,
but what factors are in that decision? So let's say the club's losing money, but because the fans are going to be absolutely livid if the ticket prices go up again, and it's obviously will have happened twice in a very short period of time.
We'll get back to Gary and Sir Jim in just a quick second, but remember, if you liked this video, please like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification button so that you know when the next Big D video hits. And as ever, if something's on your mind, you know what to do. The comment section is for you, so please express yourself in the comment section. Just keep it civil. The Big D reads all of the comments and he looks forward to reading what is on your mind. Anyway, in this final clip from the Sir Jim Ratcliffe interview on the Overlap, Sir Jim discusses ticket prices, the fact that he's going to increase the prices again, and he's also going to be talking about the new Stadium 2. So it's interesting to hear what's coming for Manchester United. More money, more money, more money, more money from the fans. But anyway, here he is. Stick around for after the clip because the Big D is going to be expressing his thoughts on what Sir Jim and Gary had to say. Here they are.
Okay, so my guidance to the management team is that, you know, we have to look after the faithful supporters, and we have to value the fact that the support of those supporters at the game is worth points, which it is, isn't it? Because the more...
Who are the faithful supporters and who are the... Sort of, what do you mean
by
that? Because they're all faithful, aren't they? In some way, I mean, they all turn up every...
Well,
that stadium's full
every week. The faithful supporters, the supporters who've got a season ticket and they go to the games. And the faithful supporter is the guy who's got a season ticket. He goes to the top 6 games, but he also goes to see the other games as well. He doesn't just pick the top 3 games and then sell his ticket on to somebody else for the other games. Those are, in my view, that's a proper supporter. I don't know whether you agree with that, but that's where I am.
So,
you know, because, so I think, and it is worth points. You know, if you look at the Kop, you look at the Stretford end, that's worth points, isn't it? It's, you know, the more intimidating that atmosphere, the louder. We saw it in the second half against Arsenal. I mean, that really lifted the team in the second half. I thought the fans were fantastic on Sunday. So the ticket pricing has to be fair and it has to be affordable to the local people. And there are different, you know, we're talking about, you know, some people who live in Manchester, there may be some people who come across from Hong Kong or come up from London or something like that. It's a different group of people, really, in a way. So I think the ticket pricing can be different depending upon who we're targeting. And then you've got the younger people and you've got the
prices, basically. Yeah. You're looking to structure it.
Yeah, and we should do that. But if you look at the income for Manchester United, it comes from 3 places. You know, it comes from TV revenues, it comes from merchandising, selling shirts, all that type of stuff, and sponsorship, and it comes from ticketing. So, and you have got inflation, so, you know, we're going to finish up with 700 people at Manchester United, and they'll all get, you know, we have to give them a pay rise. So there has to, you know, ticketing has to contribute a little bit extra each year, but, you know, I think that there's a discussion going on about could we freeze the prices for under-16s, those types of discussions we're having at the moment. What's fair, what's affordable, but we've also got a hole in the finances, you know, which we need to fill. I know we got a lot of criticism whenever it was 2 or 3 months ago on ticket pricing, you know, that £66 thing. But that, I mean, just to put that in context, and so you may still criticise me or us, maybe, I don't know. I mean, it was a club decision, it wasn't my decision, but I didn't know much about it. But that was 500 tickets out of 75,000 that people returned to the club. They bought the ticket and they returned 500 tickets because they wanted their money back. And those 500 tickets were tickets which had been subject to a discount, either because they were a young person or an old person. And the club received those 500 tickets, which people sent back because they didn't want to go to the game. They gave those people their money back, and then they sold the tickets at face value rather than discounted prices for 500 tickets, that's all. And the face value was £66. So that's what the club did. So it didn't, it wasn't a huge thing that the club did. It wasn't 10,000 tickets or 5,000 tickets, 500 tickets. And they were tickets which had been issued at a discount to people, which I think is a good thing for us to do. But those people said, we don't want to go to the game, we want our money back. So then the club received the 500 tickets, sold them for £66. That has now been reversed, so we don't do it. And I have,
It was a PR disaster at the time, wasn't it? It was a PR disaster at the time.
A catastrophe, but I'm not sure that fact I've just given you now was really described terribly well. Because when you hear that, that's not the biggest deal in the world when you think of all the things that are going on at Manchester United.
I just want to stop because you said something during it was a small piece. You said I wasn't aware of the decision. You said you wasn't quite across the detail of the 40,000. I wouldn't expect you to be.
No, I can't be.
To be honest with you, I have businesses myself, and I wouldn't expect to be involved at that level of decision. No. But you've got to make sure the people underneath you understand the magnitude of decisions that are being made.
Yeah, particularly
in the club, because it reflects upon you. They're going to come for you.
Yeah, which they are doing at the moment. Yeah, but you don't get it all right, all the time.
One huge positive. I've sat on a task force.
Are we moving on to a positive?
I thought we'd get. We've got a minute left, so let's look at something really good. I said it would be a tough interview, didn't I?
You did.
The stadium. I sat on the last task force committee meeting on Friday, and I had a glimpse of what's coming, obviously, and it looks absolutely spectacular.
It is, doesn't it? Yeah.
And I've been shouting about the fact that for me, for years, there are non-negotiables with United. A great training ground, an amazing stadium, the best in class. The football sometimes, it's going to be up and down because that's the nature of football. Yeah. We weren't always successful in my childhood. How excited are you by that, and is it deliverable?
It's definitely deliverable, but I think it needs to be set in context again. I think, if you take the view, I'm sure it's your view as well, that it's the greatest football club in the world, then if it's going to build a new stadium, it should be a new stadium that's befitting the greatest club in the world. And also a stadium that befits the greatest league in the world, because the Premier League is the greatest league in the world. And at the moment, if you look at the Premier League, we've got some great stadiums, but we don't have a Bernabeu, do we? And we don't have a Nou Camp, the new Nou Camp. We don't have that in the Premier League, although it's the greatest league in the world. And also, if you look at the north of England, the north of England has won 10 Champions League finals, and London has won 2. So there's quite a few reasons there to have the world's most iconic football stadium in the north of England, at the world's greatest club. And I think, but the thing that puts it in context, which I think everyone has to understand, is that we've got two options. We can rebuild the existing stadium or refurbish the existing stadium, or we can build a new one. The only basis upon which we can build a new one is if it is part of this government regeneration scheme for South Manchester, because we can't afford to regenerate southern Manchester. That's too big a bill for the club. So we can build a stadium. We don't need any government funding for that stadium, but it has to be the underpin for the regeneration. Yeah. And the government have come out, when was it, 3 or 4 weeks ago, Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, came out with her growth plan for the future, which have got these 3 primary growth projects. One was Heathrow, one was Oxford, Cambridge, sort of Silicon Valley, and the third one was the regeneration of southern Manchester, which she said, would be the shining example of growth in this country. And it would be the biggest regeneration projects in Europe. But in a regeneration project, if you look at the Olympic Village in East London and all that sort of thing, there has to be a focus or a nucleus. Otherwise, all you're doing is building a housing estate and a shopping centre. And that doesn't normally end well. So I think that if the government go ahead with their regeneration project on a scale, that sort of befits the north of England, because there's been a huge number. I mean, the government have had all sorts of regeneration projects in London. They've had the Olympic Village, they've got Canary Wharf, they've got the O2, they've got Wembley, they've got King's Cross, all sorts of. But they don't go to the north very often. So if they do this really well and properly, then I think we should underpin that with the world's most iconic football stadium. And I won't say much more, but Norman Foster, who also is a Mancunian, and is the world's greatest architect, in my view, has created the most iconic. Well, you've seen it. The most iconic stadium. It would be absolutely incredible, and it would be marvellous if, Manchester United could go down that road and in 5 years' time or 6 years' time have that stadium. It'd be fabulous. And great for the Premier League. Great for the north of England. We could hold England games there, the Champions League final there. That would be. And I think by this summer we'll have a best-in-class training centre. I think where Carrington's going to finish up his. I don't know whether you've seen it yet, but
I've seen the plans for it.
You've seen the plans. That's going to be fantastic. So we'll have a great training centre. We would have the world's greatest stadium. It won't be a small stadium, and I think it will be a very profitable club. So the vision for the future for Manchester United is fantastic. But we're at the we're in the trough at the moment, at the difficult phase.
Jim, let's end on that. I've enjoyed it. Look, one thing I would say is that for 25 years, the Glazer family haven't spoken, and you are going through a challenging time at this moment in time. To be fair, you are communicating, you do speak, which I think is a start. Football clubs' owners need to communicate to the fans in good times and in bad times, and they've never had communication at United, so I commend you for that.
We have to face the music a bit, really. I mean, I know it's been a bit difficult for the club and for the supporters. But at the end of the day, we absolutely want the same thing as the supporters. That's our only objective in life, is to see Manchester United winning silverware again.
Good stuff. Thank you. Thanks, Jim. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, I mean, this is going to go down like a lead balloon with these ticket prices going up again, but not by much. But what's not by much? It's not good. It's not good. See, the thing is, the Big D used to live in London, okay? And it's very expensive living in London, okay? But the thing that irked me the most about living in London, it was that it was expensive, but it was the value that you got for your money. If Manchester United were the reigning, defending Champions League, World Club Cup winning team of the past 5 years, and they had players like Kylian Mbappe playing for them, they had Jude Bellingham playing for them, they had a prime Lionel Messi and a prime Cristiano Ronaldo playing for them, and somehow they built a time machine and got Peter Schmeichel and Franz Beckenbauer and Duncan Edwards to play for them, and they were dominating teams, playing sexy football and all of this, and they were charging £66 a ticket. You can kind of see what you're paying for, basically. But the way Manchester United are playing at the moment, they've got a bloody cheek raising the prices. They should be lowering the prices. The general experience at Old Trafford, it's not great. When Fergie was there and the team was winning titles, and they had some great players playing for them like Rooney, Ronaldo, etc., that sort of papered over a lot of it. Now, I didn't necessarily think about this up until recently when I went to a Borussia Dortmund game a few years ago, and I saw the yellow wall and they were playing Borussia Mönchengladbach and all of this, and the way the Germans sort of designed their footballing experience, it was very fan-centred. They treat the fans fantastically well. You had top drawer food and alcohol, and also you could have a beer in the stand as well while you were watching the game. And it was just a much more pleasant environment to watch the game. Whereas at Old Trafford, I mean, the beers are overpriced. You don't get that much choice in the beers that you drink. The food's rubbish. Mind you, the hot dogs aren't too bad. But the overall experience, it's just not. It's for the money that you pay, you should be getting a lot more. You should get a lot more choice in what you consume, and also it shouldn't be as overpriced because it's like £5 a pop for a drink. It's weird, and you can't even take a bottle of pop without them taking the lid off the top of a plastic bottle. A plastic bottle. Good grief. So the general fan experience could be a lot better, and even around the ground as well. I mean, some of the hotels that you can go into for a drink or whatever when you're there with your mates or your family and whatever, it's massively overpriced. It's like £5 a pint. And hotel football, which was designed by Gary Neville, that's the biggest rip-off of everything. So, and I can't see that getting any better anytime soon. But if they just had value for money, it would just be a different kettle of fish. I really like the thought of this brand new stadium having, England having its very own new camp or Bernabeu, 100,000 seater stadium under soil, roof, all that good stuff that hosts Champions League finals and major sporting events and concerts and etc, etc, etc. I think that'll be absolutely fantastic. And it's about time England had something like that. Because, I mean, Spurs have got a fantastic ground. Probably the best ground in the country. But it's Spurs. So a team like Manchester United, who is the crown jewel of English football, whether the Scousers like it or not, should have a stadium befitting its status as an elite club. Can you call Man United an elite club at the moment? Probably call them a snoozing giant. They're not quite asleep yet, but they are a little bit groggy and snoozing a tiny bit. So they need a good jolt, kick up the backside, and a good strong coffee to get them going again. And hopefully we're able to give them a shot or two of espresso in the transfer window in the summer. But we shall soon see. But if they're going to build this big fancy pants new stadium in the summer, it's going to cost an absolute fortune. And the infrastructure surrounding it, they're going to have bars and restaurants and all of that kind of stuff. It's going to cost a fortune. It's going to be £10 a pint, and it's going to cost £50 for burger and chips. It's going to be nuts. And the Big D predicts it's just going to be another example of football, which is a working class sport, moving further and further and further away from the working class people who are struggling to support it. And it's no wonder you've got a rise in these dodgy boxes where you get all the fancy channels and all of that so they can watch the football. It's no surprise. Football is far too overpriced for what you get. Far too overpriced. And Manchester United have got an absolute cheek. The Big D is a little bit sensitive about this kind of thing. Because the Big D's dad is a season ticket holder at Manchester United. He sits in the Stretford end and he's a pensioner. And he lives to go and watch Manchester United. Manchester United is the love of his life. And the thought of my dad getting priced out of going to watch that shower of shite it's heartbreaking, to be quite frank. And it really, really, really irks the Big D. That United haven't even got the common decency to perform at 100% every game. Which is why people like Marcus Rashford used to irk the Big D as well. But I mean, it is going to be all well and good having a big fancy new stadium and having, a winning team and all of this. But I mean, think about this, right? So it's going to cost £66 a ticket. and that's going to go up as well to go and watch Man United. Then you've got your travel costs. And then once all this infrastructure is put in place, it's going to cost a fortune to have a bite to eat. It's going to cost a fortune in the ground as well. If you don't go to the matches, you're still paying, what is it, £30, £40 a month per TNT, per Amazon Prime, per what's the Discovery Plus, per what's the other one, Sky Sports, and all of this. Plus, it's £100 per shirt per season, and they release 3 kits as well. And the scarves cost a tenner. Then the hats cost a tenner. Then the programs, the magazines, the subscriptions, the in-app purchases. Then you've got to go to the away games as well. It's just crazy. And the thing is, people pay it as well because they love it. But I don't know, there just seems to be a dark undertone to all this business. The Big D apologises for sort of going a little bit sort of negative on the situation, but it's Man United. But football is an absolute rip-off. It is. It's a rip-off. And the Big D doesn't see any end in sight. Really doesn't. But the Big D's going to leave it there. He's made enough YouTube content for this evening. He is ready for a kip. But as ever, if you've come this far in the Big D's videos, please, thoughts in the comments. And the Big D appreciates you. The Big D thanks you. The Big D is interested in what you have got to say. So please, thoughts in the comments. And the Big D will catch you in the next one.